Chad will always win, bro. Sometimes you may be questioning whether you could get women, whether you're in your head, whether you just have low self esteem. Maybe you're not approaching the right way. You took a left step when you should have taken a right step. You looked down when you should have looked sideways. You wore a green pair of underwear when you should have worn a red one. You go into these copes, about why you're not getting women and why you're not romantically successful, why you haven't been on a date in the last 10 years, still going off stories of high school instead of getting out there and making new stories. Well, the truth is, man, you lost. Yup, you're a loser. You lost a battle you didn't even know you were in. You see, Chad's always going to win, bro. Chad has everything you have plus good looks. So, if you got a big dick slinging around a hog, you know what I'm saying? Chad's got that too. You got personality, you're funny, charismatic. Chad's got that too. You're educated, you went to Harvard, you're a lawyer making $250,000 a year. Well, guess what? Chad has that too. There is no beating Chad. Chad won at birth. You see, the race begins at birth because the way you look is going to be the way you get treated. If you ever see people treat a ugly baby bad, oh, that baby's ugly, and they don't even want to carry him. They don't buy him any good gifts, but there's a cute baby. Everybody wants to be his godfather. Everybody wants to buy him a gift. Chad won at birth, man. And Chad will continue to win throughout his entire life, and you will continue to be the loser because you can't beat him. In this world, it's a competition, bro. At the end of the day, everything is a competition. When two people got to take a shit and there's one toilet, it's going to be a competition. Somebody's going to have to give, right? Somebody's going to have to wait while the other person takes a dump, right? So it's the same way with women. Why do you think there's that girl that you like? That girl you got a crush on? Maybe she's alternative. She's neurodivergent. She's a cute alternative chick. You like her. You got a crush on her. You're smitten. And then you wonder why you can't get her. You're like, oh, we're into similar things. So, like, oh, we live similar lives. So, we're similar people. We should be dating. And then you see her and she's dating some freaking attractive dude, some stereotypically attractive guy. She's dating that like attractive emo guy that's 6'2". But it's always some sort of Chad. It's always some sort of Chad light, high tier normie type of guy. Yeah, because he won. He won, bro. You're sub 5, dude. Get lost. That's pretty much the mentality of society when it comes down to it. It's get lost. Get lost, kid. That's really how it is. Chad won, brother. Chad won. Chad will always get the women that he wants. You'll never beat Chad. There's nothing you could do to make yourself better in order to stand toe-to-toe with Chad, Chadriguez, Tyrone, Chang, Abdul, Chad Hamid. There's all these guys, these just genetically superior men that they'll always take the girl that you want. And the girl that you want will always desire that man, right? It's always been brutal to me when I used to be more blue pill, when I used to think that I had a chance when I was younger. I used to really believe that if you and the girl were into similar hobbies, you guys went through similar things in life, that girl would like you, regardless of how you looked, right? Because I used to think looks didn't matter. And then you'll take that girl, and then she'll date like a Chad. And it's like, how is this girl who is so alternative to normal reality, how is she like liking these guys, these like generic jocks? You know, jock number 1, jock number 2. How is she liking these guys? You know, you're like, this girl's so different. This girl plays video games. This girl does YouTube. This girl, you know, this girl's on Twitch. You know, this girl does all this alternative stuff. You know, you're wondering, you're scratching your head. You're like, why does she like these guys as well? Why? You start asking yourself. Maybe it's a girl who's into punk rock. You know, she likes Linkin Park. You know, she's listening to Linkin Park. In the end, it doesn't even matter. You know, you think she's alternative. You think she's different. And meanwhile, she's listening to a Chad that listens to rap. She's dating this Chad who's into this like generic. You know, I'm not saying Linkin Park isn't generic, but you get what I'm trying to say, you little square goofball. Yeah, Linkin Park's mainstream. You know, she's dating these guys that are just like so different from her. Why? Because she's attracted to his physical genetics. That's why. That girl you thought that was alternative, that gamer girl, that girl who was nice to you when everybody else was mean to you. So you thought she was nice and you thought she was different. And she's cut from a different cloth. And, you know, you're thinking all this stuff and you're making mumbo jumbo. She will always like Chad as well. You see, Chad's universal. Chad, it hurts me to admit it, but I'll never be as influential as Chad. You see, Chad is accepted by everybody. He may have some enemies, some guys who hate on him, but everybody will just take his side. So it's basically social seppuku side to go up against the Chad. So, you know, everybody loves Chad. You know, I remember growing up, man. People used to clown on anime. People used to clown on kids who played video games. You know, if you were a gamer, you were like a nerd. You know, if you were into anime, you were a dweeb, you were a weirdo. You're a freaking fruitcake. But then Chad started watching anime. Chad started playing video games. You know, Chad liked Minecraft. Now everybody likes Minecraft. You see, it's like, have you ever seen those like inaugurations of things, and they have like a big bow, and then like there's a bunch of people, and somebody has like a gigantic, oversized pair of scissors, and they like cut the thing, and everybody starts clapping, and people go in to the restaurant or the store or whatever it is that's being inaugurated. That's Chad with things, right? So for the longest of times, a lot of people thought anime was gay. A lot of people thought anime was for weirdos, for goofies, for fruit snacks, for fruit cakes, you know, for basement dwellers, for dudes that don't shower, for Cheeto finger guys, you know. They used to think that it was for those type of dudes. And then Chad, you see, the best day for anime was the day Chad picked it up. The day Chad Thundercock laid his eyes upon Naruto or laid his eyes upon One Piece was the day that anime grew. Because all your dweeb fans, all your neckbeard fans, all these undesired sub 5 guy fans, they're worthless. They're worthless to these companies. They don't care. They don't care. They're not going to get any eyes on the thing. Because you know what? The best way of promotion is through people. So when Chad, who has this huge social influence, decided that he liked anime, that's the day anime went up. Same thing with video games. I used to get clowned on for playing video games. You're a gamer, bro. You headset hair. You know, they used to, you know, all these clowning things. And then Chad picked up gaming. Chad started playing Modern Warfare. And all of a sudden, if you're a gamer, you're cool. If you're a gamer, you're dope. Why? Because of Chad, man. You know, Chad won, bro. Chad is just an influential dude. Chad is just, a guy who just like changes things. The world is his oyster. He could change people's bum lives in the press of a button. Chad is that guy. And that's why he will always win. That's why Chad, there's nothing you could do against that guy. If Chad wants the girl you like, he's going to have her. He's going to have her, bro. And I've been victim to Chad. I've been victim to Chad before, man. I like a girl. She has her boyfriend comes out to Chad. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about. She always has a boyfriend, bro. She always has a boyfriend. Hold on. You're walking down the street. You're going to go get something to eat. You got the earphones in your ear, listening to a beat. And then you see out of the corner of your eyes a cute Latin beauty. And you start asking yourself, like, damn, that girl's beautiful, man. That girl's pretty. She's alone. She's standing there. No one's around her. You start getting courageous. You're like, man, that girl's cute. Man, that girl, why is she there all alone? Why is she there? Why isn't anybody around her? So you start making questions. Maybe she looks over at you. You guys make eye contact. And you start trying to build up some courage to approach, right? That's what Coach Red Pill told you. That's what Alpha Male Strategies told you, right? You see a girl, she looks at you, approach. That's what he told you, right? That's what Andrew Tate told you, right? So you start thinking about it. You're wondering, should I approach? Should I not? And then a 6'2" guy comes out of the freaking bathroom and he starts hugging up on her. Like, hey, babe, you ordered food already? She always has a boyfriend, bro. There is no such thing as a woman who doesn't have options. There isn't such thing as a woman who can't have a boyfriend if she doesn't want it. She can't, there's no such thing as a girl who will never not have a boyfriend, bro. And this is something that I had to deal with, because I just came back. I was eating. This is kind of what inspired this video. I want to go get something to eat, right? And then I was waiting there. This girl was looking at me kind of, I could notice her looking at me from the corner of her eye. Right? And, she was cute, a tan chick, tan Latina looking cute. And then, we're kind of eyeballing each other. She started it. Maybe she was scared. Maybe she saw this predator, this dangerous man, this beast. Maybe she saw this beast of a man. That's really what they be thinking when they see our ugly asses, bro. They be seeing my ugly ass. They be like, man, who's that guy? Start clenching their purse. They start, and then I'm just thinking to myself, like, man, that's a pretty woman. That's a pretty woman. And I was like, man, it'd be nice to talk to that woman. It'd be nice it'd be nice to talk to her. And then this guy comes out of the freaking, out of the inside of the place. And they're all close to each other and stuff, and they leave. And I'm like, man, she out there. These girls always have a goddamn boyfriend, bro. Don't get excited, bro. If you see some girl alone, she's looking cute, she's attractive or whatever, don't ever think you have a chance. Don't ever think this girl really is alone. These women are never alone. These women always have some guy on speed dial that could just come and pick her up. Or she always has this big rotation of men. It used to be that 90s, 2000s gimmick that men had rotations. No, it's women that have rotations nowadays, man. It really is women nowadays who have rotations. And, if you see a woman that's alone, or maybe, I'll never forget this, another brutal black pill. I'm telling you, bro, these women, bro, there's no such thing as a single woman. She's never alone. She's never single. She's never available. She's never without child. She's never without insane amounts of baggage. It's over, bro. I used to go to this one town. Haven't been there in like 2 months, but I used to go to this one town on Wednesdays, and there was this cute girl, man. It was this cute girl that worked at a taco stand, and I think she was working with her dad, and kind of made eye contact a few times, and I kind of, I liked her, not saying like liked her in the sense of like I'm actively pursuing her, no, but liked her in the sense that she's cute. Yeah, I'd date her. And I'll never forget, man. One time I was like hanging out. I think I was eating like an ice cream or something, and I see her walk from behind the taco stand with a kid. It's like, bro, these women are never single, bro. There's no women left, bro. There really are no women left, bro. If you're not some slayer, if you're not this guy who just has it like that, if you're not this Chad, it's over, bro. There are no women left. Especially at my old ass age, at 27, I'm not, the girls that are around my age, let's say 24 to 30, they're all taken, man. They all got something. They all have this baggage. They all have kids. They all have a big history. They all have a freaking phone book full of fucking simps. Hey, he was there, man. These women are never alone, man. And it does get freaking annoying. I'm not going to lie. Like, Jesus Christ. It's like, how many relationships are going on out there? How much freaking sex is going on out there? How many people are fucking, man? Like, what the frick is going on here, man? What's going on? Things are getting, what's going on here, man? Are there no women out there, calling all virgins, calling all freaking girls with underneath 2 boyfriends? Where you at? They're nowhere to be freaking found. All these women have freaking kids. They're all taken. It's like, it's fucking screwed. We're screwed. I'm screwed, man. No matter how hard I was to try, it's like finding a needle in a freaking 20-mile haystack. Trying to find a woman that doesn't have baggage. Trying to find a woman that's single. Like, okay, to start off with, you got to find a woman who's single. And what percentage of those women who are single would actually want your goofy self? Very few. Very few. I really doubt that there's like any women out there who would want me. But it sucks, man. It sucks. I'm not going to lie. It sucks. Because like I'm a man at the end of the day, man. I'm a red, warm-blooded man. And I do desire a woman to be by my side in my life. And, I'll see a beautiful woman out in the street. Maybe we lock eyes. She's got a boyfriend. If she don't have a boyfriend, she's got a little spawn. Pookie spawn. Tyrone spawn. Chadrigas spawn. Chad spawn. Abdul spawn. She's got all these freaking, it's like it's over. It's over, man. It's like, it sucks. Because it's like you might as well not even look at women anymore. There's no point in me looking at women. Because every woman that I see is going to be chat only. Or she's going to be in a relationship. Or she's going to have a kid. Or she's going to be going through some sort of psychological damage. She just broke up. There's no, man, it's over. It's over, bro. It's over for us, man. It sucks. It really sucks to accept this. It really sucks to have to accept this, man. That it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, bro. It's like every woman out there has some sort of history, some sort of child, maybe a couple abortions or something, haunted pussy. It's crazy, bro. It sucks, man. As a guy who just wishes he could have like a normal life, it's basically impossible. That's why I'm just trying to accept and be okay with knowing that I'm never going to have a woman by my side. That is like the metaphorical, not the metaphorical, the one you should have underneath a boyfriend, maybe 2 boyfriends, no kids, still emotionally available, still not mentally and emotionally scarred. Like, that girl's extinct, man. If you're not Chad, you're not getting that. Because Chad won. Chad won. Chad will always defeat you. She's never single. Even if she's alone, she's not single. Even if she talks to you, she's not single. So, I don't know. Just a whole load of BS. Peace out.